It has been 5 years since Lady Gaga's last record, but the wait is over. Mayhem marks Gaga's seventh official studio record. This album marks a return to her dark pop roots, and thanks to Die With a Smile, it already marks another Grammy-winning record for Gaga. Mayhem is a genre-warping introspective journey through Gaga's history as an artist and the future ahead of her. It spans across 14 tracks and clocks in at 53 minutes, not including two different bonus tracks. It is one of the most thoughtful and complete records that she's made so far, and I'm really glad it lived up to the hype. You guys know the drill. I'm going to talk a little bit about the background of the record, its singles, do a track-by-track review, and then assign it a final score. The Mayhem era so far. The road to this album has been pretty interesting. Gaga first teased the record last year, stating that she was writing some of the best songs that she can remember. When she finally released the Chromatica Ball film, she teased a song at the very end. She stated that this record came from a place of happiness, something backed by her fiancé Michael Polanski, who urged her to channel that onto a pop record. He would go on to co-write 7 of the tracks. After a show-stopping performance at the Olympics, Gaga played a few snippets in Paris before heading on to do promo for the box office disaster Joker Folie à Deux. Around that time, Die With a Smile, a collaboration with Bruno Mars, launched. Gaga proceeded to launch the album's underrated lead single Disease that October, which would hit the top 30 in many countries. It marked a return to form and alluded to Mayhem's sound and aesthetic. Gaga would talk about the album, calling it something that speaks to her love of music and an answer to the chaos in her life. In early January, Die With a Smile finally hit #1, and Gaga would reveal the cover art and title through a countdown. The title, Mayhem, is a direct reference to the pieces in her life that are not always easy to accept, and the character that has appeared in the Disease and Abracadabra music videos. Die With a Smile ended up winning Best Pop Duo at the Grammys, and she premiered Abracadabra, the second single. Abracadabra was an instant smash, creating buzz. It charted much higher than Disease, and it reminded the world at large that Gaga still had that avant-pop girl in her soul. It was critically acclaimed and sparked interest up again for Mayhem. She would go on to do an onslaught of public appearances, even doing hot ones, and just hours before this album dropped, Gaga did a press conference with Spotify confirming Telephone Part 2 of all things, and now Mayhem is here. So here are my general thoughts on the album. I've only listened to this about 5 times, and I have to say that Mayhem is actually one of my favorite Gaga records. It might be my favorite since Art Pop. It is insanely digestible. The track listing might actually be amongst the best of her records in years. It does feel like it is a bit front-loaded, as most of the bangers are at the start, and then it starts to slow down and simmer towards the end, but I feel like that's intentional. Mayhem is shockingly cohesive despite all the tracks feeling very distinct. I argue that there's no filler on this record, no skips. Even Die With a Smile, which some felt like was tacked on, feels like it fits the record's sonic soundscape. The album was largely produced by Gaga, Circuit, and Andrew Watt, which marks a change from the old guard away from previous collaborator Blood Pop. Gaga meant it when she said that she was genre hopping, though the album's guitar-driven production gives it a unique touch. She's always had a voice meant for rock, and seeing her finally use it on Perfect Celebrity and Killa, she manages to really effortlessly channel icons like Michael, Prince, Bowie, Daft Punk, and her past iterations throughout. Even within the tracks themselves, she's always taking the left turn, the bridges remain immaculate, but all my love goes to the outros and the deep cuts. They really let you breathe in the song and just jam out. We rarely get a record that lets you breathe. It's not this onslaught of content. It feels like art. For all the talk about reheating nachos, which Gaga herself even chimed in on, saying that she invented hers and is very proud of that, this record feels like a cross-examination of her career, all 17 years since the fame. Each element of her life, the ups and the downs, are reflected in the songs. This feels like her using her past as a paintbrush to create new colors and refine older sounds. If you've been there since day one, you can even hear a few callbacks to her pre-fame demos. Tracks like Zombie Boy, The Beast, Garden of Eden, they feel like long-lost sisters to the leaked demos that I grew up listening to. I want to note that this album's very academic, much like Gaga's earlier works, which deconstructed 70s and 80s sounds that she sought to bring back. This time, she's examining herself and her impact on the industry. Mayhem feels like an embrace of her identity and legacy. Even Harlequin and her ill-fated Joker 2 role are referenced throughout. I really love the album art, showing her split against herself with this distorted mirror. It makes so much sense. Gaga considers this one of her favorite records in a long time, and I agree with her. Gaga has always been about duality. Stephanie versus Gaga, herself contrasting against Joanne, her turns as Ally Main and Lee Quinzel. It's that divide of self that makes her so compelling. The videos seem to allude to that with Mayhem, this character that is a personal demon chasing her around, telling her to dance or die, but this record is very much her coming to terms with all that and reconciling it all into one Gaga in some way. It's a beautiful message on top of the arc of accepting joy and making art in it rather than just trauma. A chunk of this album was actually co-written with her fiance Michael Polanski, who urged her to do a pop record again. I just love bringing that up. This album is pretty much their brainchild and it's very inspiring. Over 50 songs were made for this album, which makes me certain a deluxe is coming. I watched her amazing Zane Lowe interview, and apparently Mayhem was almost an electro grunge record titled Perfect Celebrity, but then she started to incorporate different sounds leading to this final product. I would love her to dive into that genre a bit more, but I'm glad with what we got. This is a record that is going to sound amazing live. Many of the tracks feel arena ready. I was just blown away. And now the track by track. Disease I already made a video on. I have to say, in the context of the record, it is a perfect opener. It is one of the roughest tracks, and it feels like a starting point on the journey that Gaga goes throughout this album. The gothic, crunchy, rocky, dark pop. I love that she sets up this theme of love as a cure to a disease, or maybe the disease itself. It's a theme that really she flips on its head a couple of times. Abracadabra is a perfect follow-up single. Honestly, it could have been the lead itself. Circuit and Watt really channeled her Fame Monster and Born This Way personas into something theatrical and fresh. The hooky nature of the ooh na nas recall her earlier writing. It's just a truly magical song, no pun intended, that lyrically shows Gaga accepting the call to action to thrive rather than survive. Paris Goebel really deserves so much credit for that choreography that adds power to the visuals. This might still be one of my all-time songs from her. Garden of Eden is a perfect throwback to the 2000s era's pop that she defined. I felt traces of Timbaland's sound in there, but also her demos like Private Audition. It reminds me so much of The Fame, but with a more modern sound to it. It continues this idea of love as a curse and a cure, the concept of her taking her lover to the Garden of Eden, but as the serpent of temptation. There's so much rich contrast in there. Temporary heaven for a lifetime of punishment feels like a theme in there. The operatic ad-libs on the pre-chorus and the bridge feel like an ominous Greek chorus urging her on to disaster. The chorus itself is pretty straightforward, classic anthemic banger. I love the melody. The guitar riff has this infectiousness that the Fame really just had throughout. The outro, I just love a dance break. It's a good moment to break the song up. Perfect Celebrity is a career highlight for Gaga. In my opinion, it starts off so gentle before exploding into a grunge rock track. It discusses her anger at herself and the industry for making her put on so many disguises. The lyrics are so funny, but they're so angry. Verse 1 recalls Plastic Doll and Joanne's Dancing in Circles, underrated track, talking about missing a real human connection. The pre-chorus muses about clones, while the chorus has her daring her critics to hate her. The bridge feels like a reset of the song where she calls out Hollywood's emptiness before coming back and doing this outro, which again elevates the song. Her last line is about becoming this notorious being, and I feel like that is pretty much who she is. I keep on saying that things are my personal favorites, but Vanish Into You, one of my personal picks. It is a callback to Gypsy from Art Pop. It sounds a little bit like Brooklyn Nights, particularly with the vocals. I love the contrast between the upbeat production and the guitars and the piano and the dour, desperate lyrics. It's very nostalgic sounding. The melody itself is the highlight. I instantly thought of it as a wedding song, despite it being, ironically enough, about being someone so in love with someone that they just want to vanish into them, even on their dying breath. That final line ties it to Die With a Smile. I love the drama of the vocals. It feels very pop punk, but by way of ABBA. Art Pop Warriors, this one is for you. Killa with Gesaffelstein, I've seen some mixed reviews for, but I personally love it. Gaga has been trying to work with Gesaffelstein for over 10 years, and this wait was worth it. It's a very groovy track. It is out of her usual comfort zone. The guitar gives it character. You can feel the bravado on this one. She embodies this new character who's a killer. It feels like a sister track to Monster, except now she's the full-time bedroom diva. The lyrics ooze out sass, confidence. Verse 2 is corny if it came from anyone but Gaga. Hungry for a homicide, one of my favorite lines, and that closing scream on the bridge, setting it up for that sick outro. I love it. Fun fact, someone pointed out that Gesaffelstein and Gaga actually sampled Bowie's Fame riff, which was supposed to be on the Babylon demo. Zombie Boy is disco heaven, the synths and vocals are just glittery, the opening lines kind of reminded me of Gwen Stefani's Holla Back Girl, but then the song leans so hard into a sparkly 80s funk electro pop sound that the Fame had. It's very early Gaga. This might be obscure, but I thought of Filthy Pop, Retro Dance Freak, and the teen love child era of her life. The song's outro really dials into the 80s sound. It sounds as locked in as The Weeknd's Masterwork After Hours. Gaga actually said that this was a tribute to her friend Rick Genest, who appeared in the Born This Way music video. He's the guy with the tattoos. This track was a celebration of coming home and realizing that you've just had so much fun, you're going to be a zombie the next day. The pause up reference on the track is such a cute callback to Born This Way and the queer community that built her up. Tens all around. Love Drug is an absolute smash for me. I've seen some people say on it. My initial listen, I kept on thinking about Carly Rae Jepsen's Emotion tracks. The way that it was very 80s resonated with me. Lyrically, it's a callback to Dope and Bad Romance and the love is a drug metaphor. The verses sound like an addict trying to get by without their hit of love before she goes on the chorus asking for another dose. It ties back to disease in some ways, talking about love being a retreat from reality and facing her inner turmoil. Towards the end, the vocals reminded me a little bit of Perfect Illusions, which is another track that deals with love being a smokescreen that she uses to avoid confronting herself and the truth. It's very clever. I'm just gonna say that this album might be my favorite because I keep on saying that, but How Bad Do You Want Me is another favorite. It's just so polished and poppy. It reminds me a little bit of Taylor Swift and Max Martin's work on 1989, but I also caught Cyndi Lauper All Through the Night with those synths. The song is so radio friendly. It's formulaic at its worst, but an instant crowd pleaser and a free, safe choice for a feature single at its best. I'm shocked that it wasn't a single already. The vocals, especially the ad-libs throughout, had me ascending. It feels like AA, nothing else I can say, but thrown through like this modern happy filter. Don't Call Tonight is another straightforward 80s homage. It really reminded me of the Fame Monster. The Don't Call part directly references Alejandro's Don't Call My Name. Lyrically, they hew pretty close together. It's about someone who just calls her up to hurt her and desert her. We have to talk about the bridge. It is giving Daft Punk before Gaga slips in with her powerful vocals for that final chorus. Another comp for this would be like the underrated Miley Cyrus Plastic Hearts record. This track also has this timeless Whitney Houston, Donna Summer vibe that just hits the spot. Shadow of a Man is totally a Michael Jackson homage. I just love it. It evokes Bad so well. The disco vibes are everything. She speeds up on that chorus staccato. It's just very immaculate. You can see her doing the kicks and spins. The song is actually about Gaga's career, about how she's kind of fought being in the shadow of the man in the machine at large and finding freedom and comfort to dance, even through the losses. This one is going to be amazing to see on the Mayhem Ball. I can't wait to see the choreography. The Beast is actually the slowest track on the record. It's simple instrumental with the drum heavy beat, feels like a ticking clock. She said that this one was like singing to someone who is like a werewolf lover, but it does seem to be about Michael being able to accept both Stephanie and Gaga. This track is about how he can accept her even when she has to shift into superstar mode when he isn't like a front-facing person. I think there's something beautiful about that, and the vocals towards the end. I feel like more people have to talk about this one. It's a great track. Blade of Grass is another track inspired by Michael. This one's a simple piano ballad. It really reminded me of the better songs off Joanne, and the chord progression is weirdly similar to Charlie XCX's White Mercedes. Someone pointed that out to me, and I can't unhear it. When asked how he should propose, Gaga said that he wanted him to take a blade of grass and wrap it around his finger. This track is really carried by her vocals and her emotions. You can hear the joy and contentment in her voice. I feel like this would have been a good finale for the record, but it does actually set up Die With a Smile as the proper finale. I don't have many words for the song. I think it's a karaoke staple, a charting hit, one of the best collaborations in the recent years. I really feel like Mars sounds so assured, and in the context of the album, he feels like a proxy for Michael, which ends this record on a very happy note. I love that the song is recontextualized into Gaga, accepting that bad times are inevitable, but she has this love and life to live. Finally, sort of sorting the mayhem and embracing it and seeing love not just as a cure and a curse, but a part of herself. All in all, Mayhem is a home run for me. I'm a little monster who has followed her forever. I've done essays on most of her albums. This record is a worthy addition. I cannot wait to see the era unfold. I was worried that this was going to be a retirement album, but it seems like a second wind. I don't see her quitting music anytime soon, and I love that for her. It is a 9.3 out of 10 for me. Go listen to it, guys. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning into this review. What did you guys think of Mayhem? I want to read your thoughts below. List your favorite tracks. My personal favorite tracks, I don't even know. I think I might just list it in the comments myself. They just keep on changing. Quick shout out to my members. Thank you so much for taking that extra step and supporting the channel. A shout out to my subscribers. I love you guys. I am still working on the Born This Way video. I want to get it right, so I did not want to rush it because the last Gaga series I did was like a rushed countdown to Chromatica. This time I want to do it justice. So be on the lookout for that. And again, let me know what you thought about the record in the comments, and I will see you next video.